Cryptoing and Crypto Crackhead Nation, are you ready for the recovery to begin? Are you ready? Ask yourselves these questions because this might be what's happening right now. So, new viewers, this channel does two things for you. First off, I show you how to enter trades more safely so you know what you're doing when you're clicking buy with your precious money that you worked hard for. I show you how to have the confidence in entering a statistically probable winning trade. And second, I address the biggest issue that you face as a new crypto investor is you don't know when to sell, you don't know how to sell, and you probably haven't sold anything. You're buying and praying. So I convert you from a buyer and prayer into a profit pimp who takes profits like a boss. And with that said, let's go ahead and turn this up to ×2 speed for native English speakers, 1.5 times speed for other folks, so you can get through this content more quickly. And new viewers, if you don't know what I'm saying when I say trading stuff, I have videos in the description section or in one of my playlists called Trading Journals or Trading Library. It's called Library. Watch that stuff. You can set up my chart just like I do, all that stuff. I teach you what these EMAs and all that stuff means, and it'll help you watch other crypto channels so that you can do more than just read white papers and get excited about stuff and then buy it and have it drop on your face. So with that said, let's get after it and make my face small so my dumbass doesn't have to re-record this. All right. So this kind of looks like recovery mode is in now, folks. This is a fantastic reaction. It might not hold up, and I will keep everybody updated, whether it's the Patreon community or YouTube community, but this looks pretty good to me. And so here are the things that I'm looking out for, and here is how I am going about trading this. I'm not going to give exact examples here on YouTube videos for different coins, but I want to show you what I'm seeing in the charts. So let's get after it. First and foremost, if today's daily candle, which ends every day at 8 p.m. New York City time, if it closes above this this red line, which is the 10 EMA on the daily, the likelihood of the next two candles being green is very high, which means price will likely go pierce above the daily 200 EMA, which is sitting right now at 41,100. And I would imagine that price would actually peek its head significantly above it and maybe try to go up to this horizontal here, which is at around 42,850. Will it stay that high? Probably not. It probably won't keep going past on a first pass. It could, though. But this would be the next pit stop somewhere around, let's just call this, let's just call this 41, let's call it 41,300 to 42,800. And again, the preface to that is if this candle closes, so at 8 p.m. very specifically, if at 8 p.m. this candle is still above this line and the next candle starts at 8 o'clock with 1 second, then the next two candles are probably going to be green. Will that day start off with downward action to test below the 10 EMA? Probably. It'll probably be red at first, I would guess, to try to get people out of good trades. But the likelihood of the next two being green is pretty high. Did that work out here? No, it did not. No, it didn't. However, that sort of stuff is not really that likely. And if you want to go back in time, so those essentially, in a nutshell, are the two things I'm looking for. This daily close above the red line, and then I would personally be taking profits across the board. Maybe not 100% selling everything, but taking profits when Bitcoin gets above the orange line, which is the daily 200, and then waiting for some type of retest down to see if it makes lower lows, right? Or if it gets confident somewhere, maybe around this horizontal with all these daily closings. I would probably be targeting to look for confidence around 39,000 and then re-enter here and look for the next profit-taking area. So that is how I'm playing this right now. Am I trading Bitcoin specifically? No. But I'm sure as hell not trading small alts. Small alts are the worst thing to be in right now, okay? And I've already explained this multiple times on my channel. You probably want to be in a top 50 coin if that's what you want to trade, back and forth, taking profits in and out quickly, whether that's quickly in a day or 10 hours or whatever, or a week. That's what I'm doing. And most coins are moving fairly closely with Bitcoin, and the ones that aren't, like Cardano, they're doing totally different things with their EMAs. When Bitcoin does that, that's still probably going to be a good time to take profits on Cardano, regardless of how Cardano is interacting with its EMAs. So when Bitcoin does that, if you're trading Cardano, that I personally, would be using Bitcoin as my indicator of when do I hit market sell and get out of a trade that I traded profitably because I bought down a little lower. That's how I'm doing things. Am I specifically trading Cardano? No. And I do like trading Cardano. It's great. It's chart since it got pretty stable around here, around February. I like its chart since February. This right here is, I don't know, it just seems really easy to trade. But I'm personally not trading it. But I wouldn't trade Cardano just off the Cardano chart. So and so you can apply this. Ethereum. I wouldn't necessarily trade Ethereum just based off of the Ethereum chart. I would try to take profits based on when it's smart to take profits on Bitcoin. Personally, I'm trading coins that move very similarly to Bitcoin so that the indicators are much more similar. Something like Litecoin. Even though Litecoin, it's not above its daily 10, so that's not good. So Bitcoin is stronger than Litecoin right now. What about BCH? BCH is not as strong because it's kind of getting blocked by its 200 EMA. Which is different. So you can see how these EMAs are interacting differently with price, right? So the daily 200 of Bitcoin Cash is below the 10, but not on Bitcoin. So that's why it's so important to be looking at Bitcoin, because when it's a good time to take profits on Bitcoin, it's probably going to be a good time to take profits on Bitcoin Cash or on Litecoin, because they're interacting completely differently with their EMAs. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm doing. And if you wanted to trade just Bitcoin, I strongly suggest don't do it on leverage. And if you use leverage, don't do more than 2 or 3x, because it's just the best way to lose your money, folks. I'm telling you, especially if you haven't traded for a year profitably, and over that whole year you sustain profits. If you haven't done that, doing that with zero leverage, if you haven't accomplished that year threshold, I wouldn't try it at all. All right. So anyway, those are the things that I'm personally looking out for. That's how I'm trading in this sideways, unconfident market, where we really don't know if Bitcoin is going to get weak again and make a lower low down at 25 or 23. We just don't know that yet. We have not seen confidence yet, okay? So in this, that's why personally I will be taking profits once Bitcoin gets above its daily 200 EMA, because I need to take my profits and get out so that I can mitigate my risk of staying in the trade, buying and praying, hopefully it keeps going up. But in fact, I lose all my profits because it comes back down to where I bought it and then goes farther down. I want to take my profits and wait for another re-entry. So in choppy, unconfident markets, unless you are somebody who just does DCA or dollar cost average, okay, dollar cost averaging right now, fine. Sure, you don't have to take profits because your profits are 10 years out, 5 years out. You're in that game. But if you're in the game where you want to build your portfolio, even if it's one trade a day, that's probably the way to do it. In choppy, unconfident markets, getting in and out of your trades, taking your profit and then waiting for another entry, not worrying about if you took profits here and then price goes up here. You don't care. You will wait for a retrace down to re-enter and then take profits at your next target area, right? Instead of chasing this up, right? So let me give you an example of something I'm not doing. So I am not chasing this strong move. If I can get rid of some of these. So you going down to the 1 hour chart on Bitcoin, Bitcoin usually after a nice dip down, it likes to race up to its 1 hour 200 EMA. And then almost 100% of the times it corrects down lower. Will it go make a lower low? I don't know. But I still recently took profits, and I actually took profits a little lower than that. I took profits on the 15-minute 200 EMA because that's also an area. Actually, it did get rejected. So I took profits and it went lower, but I was sleeping, I think. So I wasn't able to re-enter, and I would have re-entered. So I personally took profits here on the coin. So this rejection of the 200 EMA on the 15-minute, I was trading something like Litecoin, and I took profits on Litecoin when Bitcoin did this. And since I was not able to re-enter because I was sleeping, I am now waiting for my re-entry, let's say on Litecoin, but I'm waiting for Bitcoin to say, okay, it's safe to re-enter, even though I'm not trading Bitcoin specifically. So instead of saying, oh no, I sold too early, let me buy back because it's going to keep going. No, I'm waiting at minimum until the 1 hour Stokes are all the way down and price is looking confident somewhere. because the Stokes could go down. Watch, what could happen here, folks, is the Stokes go down, Bitcoin only goes down to like, let's say 35K. It looks strong. And then you get a fake out, and it goes like this, like a fake out here, a fake out there, and then Bitcoin makes new lows below 30K. That's what you have to defend your account from, which is why specifically taking profits regularly is a great idea. Now, if you're fully into small alts, I don't know. I've already recommended that, now's the time to get nimble and maybe get out of half of those positions. But right now, in this moment, it's probably not the greatest time to do it. The next moment that you have to do that, to essentially safeguard and be nimble, safeguard your account and be nimble, is when Bitcoin price gets over the weekly 10 EMA. When Bitcoin finally gets above here, and maybe it'll peek its head maybe up to 46.5 or something, maybe 47. It'll probably get up into this range. I would say it'll probably peek its head on this candle here. It'll probably come up somewhere within this wick of this candle. Okay, so it'll probably get rejected from the candle body, or get rejected from the end of the candle, or come somewhere half between. So I would say that Bitcoin will pop its head significantly above the weekly 10 EMA. That would be my guess. And if you do see price doing that, that would be a time to, if you've been waiting to get out of your small alts, even if it's at a small loss, but you want to safeguard your account from going down farther, and you want to buy things that are not small alts with that money you sold into, that would be your time to do it. But right now is probably not the best time for entertainment only. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is talking about Pokemon cards and how to deal with them. So for entertainment only, obviously, specifically. So small alts people, there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, that's why I've been recommending trying to get out of half of your small position so you can trade something like Bitcoin or Ethereum only, and not worrying about taking the whole small alt market by hitting market sell with 10 grand of a certain coin. Whether that's BPRO or co-vesting or car vertical or DAPPT or MTB or Trias or whatever. If you're in a bigger coin, you can be nimble and you can hit market sell, market buy whenever you want without affecting it, right? So that is what I'm looking at here. So right now, those are the things, as a recap, to look out for. Daily at 8 p.m. tonight, New York City time. London time, that would be 1 a.m. your time, I believe. I think you're 5 hours ahead of New York right now, based off of the time zones and the daylight saving schedules. That would be 1 a.m. So when you wake up, if you look back and this candle, which would actually then be the second to back candle, right? So when you wake up, there'll be another candle forming. But if this candle that's forming now, closed above there, you can have confidence that there is a statistically strong likelihood, whether that's 70% or what, I don't know how strong of a likelihood that is, that price the next couple days will go up if you wanted to start entering positions at strategic levels. So let's backtest this theory. Backtest the idea that the next 2 days, if it closed above, would go up, and to still take profits regularly, right? So Bitcoin, and this actually a big candle, closed above, the next 2 days went up, it went up. Take profits regularly. Can you buy or can you sell tops? No. But I'm saying 2 days only. So this is the second day and it still went up. Taking profits around this point would have been great to wait for another re-entry in a choppy market, because this is a choppy market, just like it was back here in early May. So you see how it closed above, the next 2 days went up? And see how the rule applies in choppy markets. You want to take profits regularly instead of just holding on till the rest of eternity, because you want to wait for a re-entry after a couple days of movement up, and wait for that next re-entry somewhere below the 10 EMA. So right now we're looking at Bitcoin price on the daily, just essentially looking how price is interacting with the red line. Price closed above the 10 EMA, went up, essentially went up, even though it closed red, went up. So that went up for essentially 5 days. And then if you take profits regularly, actually it would have worked here too. Watch. If you took profits on the second day and re-entered below the 10 EMA, and you saw price getting back above here, you can even add to your position and sell in a couple days, 1 day, 2 day, and then wait for your entry again below the 10 EMA, and then sell a couple days later above, buy back below. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm going to try to be buying below the 10 EMA and selling 2 days later, assuming if price closes above the 10 EMA, I will try to sell 2 days later. That's kind of, you know, my very basic game plan. And honestly, folks, if you think, oh, that's so simple, trading should be simple. It's folks who trade with no rules who get screwed, and you're going to screw yourself. So once again, closed above. The next day was not green. However, 2 days later was a good time to sell, right? So if you had bought somewhere below the 10 EMA, it closed above. 2 days later, take profits, wait for a re-entry below. For some reason, this rule just works really well. And one of the only times, you know, in recent history that it didn't work was this one. So here, it did not close above, I don't think. Actually, did it? Oh, maybe it did. So selling 2 days later actually would have worked here. Huh. I thought it did not close above the 10. So it actually did. It did close above. Interesting. Yeah, so it would have worked out even here. So I actually thought this was one of the exceptions, but it did work out. So for some reason, that rule of 2 with the 10 EMA 2 days later after it closes above seems to work out pretty well. And remember, when you're doing this, those candles have, you know, after your entry, this candle went down first, folks. So it tries to scare you out, even though likely 2 days later, it has a strong possibility of being a great time to sell. So there will be down action, you know, within this, and then it closes good, and then you potentially sell on the next day. Or even sell on a day later. All right, so let's keep looking here. So here, closed above, sell a couple days later, wait for an entry, you never got it. Actually, did you? Yeah, you technically did. It re-entered. However, here, you would enter a breakout trade. If you weren't able to re-enter down here after taking profits here, you essentially say, hey, the high of this range is here. So if price closes a 2 hour or 1 hour or 4 hour candle above here, the rest of the day is probably going to be big. And that's exactly what happened. A 1 hour or 4 hour candle closed here. People saw the breakout. A bunch of people stepped in as buyers for the same reason, buying a breakout, and they work. They work for that reason because people step in as buyers, folks who were previously sideliners and or sellers. So the vector of force of buy pressure gets bigger when something like this happens. And that also could be what happens with Bitcoin as well. And if something like that were to happen on Bitcoin, let's say you don't get a retracement down below the 10 EMA, that breakout of the range of the local range high, I think is around 40, or is it 42? Let's see here. I don't know if it's going to be, yeah, it's probably going to be 40. It might actually be like 39 too. It's somewhere. So this one will be tricky because buyers are going to step in at different times. Some buyers are going to step in at that candle. So anywhere between here, if you see candles closing here, the next candle could be pretty big because it will be people trading breakouts. But people will be taking profits quite nicely because they'll see that it skyrocketed above the 200 EMA, which was not in play during that previous breakout. And then price is very likely going to retrace down, which is why it's so important. But trading a breakout here, it could be over these candles or over these candles. You'll probably get some movement up. If in the case that Bitcoin keeps coming up and does not go below the 10 EMA, you don't have a re-entry point, your entry could be buying, you know, a breakout of 39.2, something like that. And then taking profits somewhere above the daily 200 EMA. So that's in the event that price doesn't retrace down below the red line or the 10 EMA. So that is, those are all my thoughts on how I am trading this. Let's see how else this worked. Let's go back farther in time. Let's go to that coronavirus tip. So, big green candle up that closed above. That could be very similar to today. Sell 2 days later at profit. Wait for a retracement down. Buy the retracement down below the 10 EMA. If that candle closes above, sell 2 days later. 2 days later, wait for your entry. It would have worked. This strategy, I don't know why it works, but I don't know. Because Bitcoin kind of goes like this, folks. So for some reason, this daily, this little trick, I don't know, it's pretty helpful. And again, if you're in small alts, you're not going to be able to do this very well unless you sell some of those and then buy some type of top 50 coin or top 25 coin that moves, you know, similarly to Bitcoin, or just buy Bitcoin itself, or buy Litecoin, or, you know, Bitcoin Cash or Dash or whatever. Let's see here. What else? Does it always work? Let's see here. It did not work here. So this is one example where it didn't work. And you bought below the 10 and you saw a candle close, waiting 2 days, you would have been, you know, you would have been at a loss had you not gotten out of your trade. Let's see here. So that is what else? Oh yeah, let's look at the weekly chart and let's kind of start looking at all these other time frames just to see if we see any, you know, hopium in the charts right now that Bitcoin will not continue below 30K. So on a weekly scale, folks, these candles really don't say, hey, this is an amazing amount of confidence. So I think on a weekly level, Bitcoin is at risk of making a lower low, of going below 30K. The daily, however, if Bitcoin could close some candles or two above here, that would start making some pretty good hopium, which would then, at this week's candle close, if it does truly close up here, then the weekly would start turning around, and then the next week potentially would be green, get above the 10. That would be your hopium that this truly is going to be the support, and the retracement down whenever it happens on a weekly scale in 2 months and a month and a half, whenever, this won't be a dead cat bounce, that it'll just have a normal retracement, higher low, and then the bull market continues. All right, but right now, I mean, there's nothing in the weekly that's saying it's going to revisit above this red line or the weekly 10 EMA. It could go down first and then go above it later. This doesn't look that strong, but the daily is giving it some shimmers of hope right now that this week could turn into a decent looking week here. Let's look at the monthly. The monthly closings have been above the 10 EMA, which is pretty good. However, yeah, and you've had some good reactions. You know, the market really bought up Bitcoin really hard. At any moment, it was below the monthly 10. So that looks okay, but let's compare that to the previous. Bear markets. Bought back up. So really, Bitcoin wasn't closing everything. So here's some hopium. This bear market, the candle closed below the 10 quickly. Here we have 2 months that the body is staying above. That didn't happen last. So now, has this month closed? No. As you can see on the right side of my screen, we have 21 days, 7 hours. So a lot could happen in 3 weeks, right? However, as of now, that's a bit different than what you had going on here, so that's a good sign of hope. That's actually pretty good. And if this month can close above the 10, the next month's probably going to be a pretty big green month. I'm telling you that right now. So this is 2013 after price skyrocketed to about $1,200 and then went into a bear market. The market bought back up Bitcoin. It closed above 2 months in a row, and then had a big green candle. It was a dead cat bounce, and that's why you probably need to be taking profits. But that's why profit taking is so important. So you can lock in what you have here and look to buy back lower. But still, that you had 2 months closing above, which it looked in danger with this monthly 10. The next month, a lot of buyers stepped in because of that confidence of 2 months candles closing above the 10. The 10 is such an important across all time frames, folks, especially the larger time frames. Did this vector of force up maintain? No, it turned into a dead cat bounce. But regardless, that's extremely tradable because, you know, from low to high, I think that's like double. Yeah, more than double, right? Can you catch all that? No, but you can catch 70% of that. All right. So right now, I mean, things are looking okay on the monthly, to be honest with you. The weekly is looking indifferent, and the daily is looking, I would say, 60% hopeful, 40% still kind of weak. What other time frames do we got? Let's look at the 4 hour, see if I'm missing anything here. Let me put on some more EMAs. So the last local high, Bitcoin price barely got above it, the purple line, which is the 89 EMA, and it looks like it's kind of having trouble there right now. So so Bitcoin, honestly, the hopium might not be that great. However, what would be great is if it does get rejected, comes back down, RSI of the 4 hour came back to hit this red line, made a higher low, and then it charged above it. That would be good. It doesn't look like Bitcoin price is going to pass this 4 hour 89 EMA on first pass. It doesn't look like it wants to. It could, but it looks like it's going to come try a little lower and then regroup, let its indicators reset, and then bust through it. So that's what I'm seeing on the 4 hour. The Stokes are already way up there. And when the Stokes are this high and it's already having trouble, it usually needs to regroup a little lower, let Stokes come down, and then the distance from that 89 is less, so therefore when Stokes turn back around, it has the oomph to go through it. So that's what it means by first pass, and that's why a lot of obstacles are not passed on the first pass, because it came from a distance that was much lower than the obstacle. So this distance is greater than this distance. So if Bitcoin can regroup down here, let its 4 hour, both RSI and Stokes, it has less distance to travel to break through there as those indicators head back up. Does that make sense? So the 2 hour, I won't go much lower than the 2 hour. So the 2 hour is getting, pretty tired up here as well. And actually the 2 hour, 200 EMA got this perfectly. So that aligns almost exactly with the 4 hour. So really, once the 2 hour Stokes come back down here, and as long as price is looking confident somewhere around here and starts heading back up, I'm going to re-enter. That would be my re-entry point, and I would be looking to take profits somewhere around the, somewhere between 42K. Actually, I would want to take profits somewhere between 39 and 42, and then look for a re-entry. And then we'll regroup from there. So that is, I'm not going to go much lower on any lower time frames. Let's try to look at some ribbons here. Short. Okay, these are my short ribbons. Yeah, so what you're looking for is with the ribbons really compressed like this, so price skyrocketed above, the ribbons compressed. If Stokes can come down a bit and the RSI of the 4 hour, where was that? Comes down to check its white line or the moving average again. I think that's where it did it. Let me, so came up. Yeah, so buying the recheck of the 4 hour white line or the moving average, right? When the RSI or the green line comes to it, that would be equivalent to buying here. And you would want to see price not go too far below the ribbons because they're compressed. So closing in the ribbons isn't that important when they're super compressed. You just want price to be closing around it. And that would be a pretty good entry point. And again, I will follow up on that on my video tomorrow or the next day or whenever it happens. What else do we see? Let's look at the daily ribbons. Nothing special here. Bitcoin's just kind of accumulating at the bottom and trying to form a base so it can ump through. So nothing crazy there. Let's look at the weekly ribbons. Bitcoin's still getting rejected by the bottom of it, which is honestly the scary thing that I mentioned last time. I really don't like that. Bitcoin needs to start closing within it, folks. I mean, this looks pretty bad. However, there are shimmers or glimmers of hopium here, and that's what I'm seeing in the charts. It's a lot of uncertainty here, folks. So, there's no one foolproof, oh, this is the time to get in, this is the time to buy. No, you should be, so I'm going to leave you with this thought. Every time you enter a position, you should enter that with the idea that the uncertainty level of whether or not that was a great time to buy is not high. There's not much uncertainty in unconfident and choppy markets. Therefore, when I'm in profit, I will take my profit with not so ambitious of a profit-taking goal of Bitcoin 50K, right? Because it might go up and down 20 times, and you're missing out on a lot of opportunity. I will take unambitious profit-taking goals. I will take profit and look for a re-entry over and over and over until Bitcoin starts looking a lot more confident. And then I might hold on to positions longer. So if you're trading this market, I would do it with that mentality, that you're getting in and out of trades and your profit-taking goals are not that ambitious. Therefore, you can take profits rather quickly and then look for your next re-entry. With always the idea that don't worry if you sold too low. It doesn't matter if price keeps going up. You took profits where you wanted to. Now wait for your next re-entry. Y'all just got timified.